Everybody, welcome back to 312, the HRP podcast. I am joined today by Jason Davis from our South Carolina office and Michael Henney of Michael Shapps Wineworks. Michael, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Hello, everyone. Great to be here this morning. My name's Michael Henney. I'm the winemaker with Michael Shapps Wineworks, located in Charlottesville, Virginia. We're a leading producer of Virginia-based wines for a number of clients throughout the state of Virginia.
And we're talking today because HRP has done a little work with Michael Shapps Wineworks. Is that correct?
That's correct. HRP's been an invaluable asset for helping us kind of figure out how to deal with our wastewater management, which I have to say has kind of caught a number of producers off guard as our production in Virginia has grown over the past few decades.
Now, I imagine being a wine producer on the East Coast probably has some unique challenges to it. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the history of winemaking on the East Coast in your area and what that's like?
People have been trying to make wine in Virginia and all throughout the East Coast ever since Jamestown, if not before. And in Virginia, there were these kind of 20 to 40 year cycles of like great ambitions and big investment and failure for one reason or another. And that pattern continued up throughout the 19th century when it was discovered that there's a organism called phylloxera that's native to the east coast of the United States that eats at the grapevines and ultimately destroys them. So that ended up being the reason for a lot of the early failure. But then in the 19th century, we somehow exported this root louse to Europe, almost destroying their industry. But then a solution was developed to grow grapes on rootstocks native to the East Coast, and kind of gave us our opportunity to make wine moving from there.
So the original plan was, we can't make decent wine here. We'll just ruin the European wine production. But luckily you got it figured out before that had to go through.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And then kind of building on that, in the 1960s in Virginia and throughout the East Coast, there wasn't really much of a wine industry to speak of. But in 1961, actually in the Finger Lakes in Lake Keuka, there was a Ukrainian immigrant by the name of Konstantin Frank who had grown high-quality European wine grapes in challenging conditions in Eastern Europe. And he gave it another try, and he brought some techniques that hadn't been tried before that were successful. And ultimately that kind of proved like, hey, we can do really cool, kind of high-quality European grape wines on the East Coast. And that kind of opened the gates for where we are now.
So, Jason, you're with us as well. Can you remind the listeners out there your position at HRP and kind of the areas you cover that would be relevant to what we're going to discuss about how HRP's paths crossed here with
So I'm Jason Davis. I'm a project manager with HRP Associates. The bulk of the work that we do is all media environmental compliance, from water to wastewater to solid waste, air compliance. In this particular scenario, working with Michael Shapps Wineworks, it was primarily a wastewater issue. As I understand it, the Wineworks production rate has increased probably 10x since 2012 when that original wastewater pretreatment system went in place. The wastewater strength increases significantly during the harvest season, and the wastewater pretreatment system was experiencing some pump failure at an accelerated rate. And looking at the system, it was primarily due to retention time. The anaerobic digestion, the aerobic digestion, microbial activity just didn't have enough retention time in order to to not go acidic before it hit the discharge pumps, and that was probably some of the major reasons for the pump failures. We looked at the system, kind of just worked with Michael Henney to talk about operational items, as well as its background there.
Sorry.
Part of the winemaking process?
We're making wine, yep.
What is that we're hearing?
So that that's a power washer, and it's probably a great example of where we generate wastewater. So we're emptying some barrels right now, and each time we empty a barrel, it gets a hot water cleaning, followed by a steam cleaning or an ozone treatment, and that's to help control a lot of the microbes that want to take our wine in a different direction than we like it to head. So it's actually a great example of how for each bottle of wine that ends up on the shelf, we generate 10 bottles of wastewater that we need to treat in an effective, environmentally friendly way. And working with HRPs kind of helped us tune in on how much wastewater we generate, looking at the pH of that wastewater, how much turbidity is left over before it goes to the field. So that's been kind of a great learning curve. And as Jason was talking about, we have real ebbs and flows in our system where in the off season, we're using about 800 gallons of water a day. But during the heat of battle and harvest, we're up to around 35 to 4,500 gallons a day. So it's really two different times of the year that require different amount of monitoring and treatment. So working with the team at HRP's really helped us get a handle on that.
And do you think you could, we've got a little audio texture to kind of fill in the details of what we're talking about. Can you maybe paint a picture visually of where the facilities are like, what the vineyard's like?
With the 500 to 700 tons of fruit that we process each year, that equates to about 150 to 200 acres of vineyards. But we're kind of unique in that our vineyards are scattered throughout the state. So in Virginia, as in everywhere in the world, where you grow the grapes really affects the final taste of the wine. So how high up it is, what the aspect is, the underlying geology, the rainfall pattern of each year. So it really gives a unique stamp on each wine grown from, say Cabernet Franc grown from a vineyard in the Monticello area where we are can be completely different from this hillside to that hillside. So we're kind of getting into understanding that kind of helps distinguish each of the products that we make. But then all the fruit ultimately gets brought to the facility here where we process it.
And in dealing with the Wineworks wastewater issues, I'm primarily a project manager on these. We actually have a staff member, Cynthia Ollie, who couldn't be here today, who dealt with Michael in some of these issues primarily. I mean, she is a former industrial compliance expert that's been with HRP for 14 years. She's maintained her wastewater operator's license over the years, and she helps not only Michael Sheps with their issues, but she is a wastewater consultant to a lot of other industries as well. So we have a good team for, wastewater and air compliance. We have people that can be brought to bear for any of those aspects.
Yeah. And, Cynthia definitely kind of brought some thinking and some structure and things to look at that we would have never come to on our own. So, I think without her insight at some of the details to look at, we'd still be spending a lot more time dealing with our wastewater system rather than our primary focus of trying to make high quality wine.
And what are some examples of those kind of changes or innovations or different ways of thinking that Cynthia was able to offer?
Yeah. So I think the first thing was getting a grip on monitoring how much wastewater we were creating at different times, and then looking back at the original system and seeing how much wastewater it was designed to manage. And then beyond that, it was really looking at the pH of the wastewater and figuring out how to our wastewater naturally wants to run down around 4 or 4.5 during many parts of the year. And Cynthia was saying the sweet spot for keeping our pumps running, as well as keeping the microbes happy that kind of do the magic in eating up the wastewater, was in the 6 to 8 pH range. So then we're like, okay, well, our pH is too low, so how do we bring it up? And we tried some different approaches there, but then she had also recommended using magnesium hydroxide, which was a new chemical to me. So once we were able to get the magnesium hydroxide into the system, then we were able to get to that magic spot. So it took a lot of work in figuring out like how much to add and when. But once we got up to that sweet spot in the off season, I don't need to mess with it at all. It just kind of stays in that range, and it's just during that harvest period where we need to do more monitoring and adjustments. So yeah, it's been a great learning curve. It's going to be much easier this year going into it after kind of learning how to manage it.
Michael, when does your harvest season really ramp up?
Our harvest season is typically late August through mid-October.
And outside of the environmental aspects with wastewater, you, like any other industry, have multiple employees, especially during the harvest season. And you kind of get into some of the OSHA health and safety arena too with that, for example, lockout, tag out, and possibly confined space entry at some point in time.
Sure, absolutely. So the kind of safety and well-being of all of our employees that work here is paramount. We deal with a lot of machines with moving parts, potentially hazardous chemicals. During the fermentation process, when we're making the wine, about half of the sugar in the grapes eventually turns into alcohol. The other half turns into carbon dioxide. So there's tremendous, potentially lethal amounts of carbon dioxide produced during this process. So with all of that, we have various safety protocols, monitoring devices, fans for fresh air. We go through safety and OSHA requirements quite often with everyone. And everyone's on board with it. And it's just kind of what we do to ensure that everyone's safe here, so we can do what we love to do, to make wine.
It's interesting because when you pull a bottle off the shelf, you never think about just the industrial aspects of getting to that point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So similar to before, do you think you could give us another visual of kind of what that crush process looks like, how that kind of more industrial side of the winemaking process goes?
Sure. So it kind of starts off slowly and quietly. So it starts off. So right now, out in the vineyard, we're going through a period called flowering. Yeah, just like with any plants, the flowers are opening up, and then we'll have fruit set where the tiny berries start to form. They'll ripen throughout the year. We're doing a lot of work in the vineyard to kind of keep the canopy open, trying to get sunlight on our grapes, not allow things to get too moist. So yeah, if all that goes well, the fruit will continue to ripen. And around the beginning of August, there's kind of a magical time in the vineyard where all the grapes start off this really kind of bright green, but eventually there's an important part in the vineyard called veraison, where the red grapes will start to turn red, the white grapes will turn their various colors of green or yellow. So we'll start to get closer to ripening. Then about 3 to 4 weeks before we start picking, we'll start sampling the grapes and start seeing where the sugar is, where the Brix is, and the acidity in them. and start to taste it. So this is all kind of the planning period on when we're going to pick, which is the most important decision we make for the kind of quality and the future value of all the wines we make. So we're watching the weather closely, and we're kind of seeing how the ripening curve's going, and we're like, then we're starting to think like, okay, well, maybe we're going to pick this next Tuesday, but that storm's coming in. Is it going to hit us or not? So a lot of kind of quiet planning. We'll do a lot of sampling in that period, going through the vineyard and trying to pick, say, 100 to 200 berries to bring to the lab. So very kind of slow ramp up, but then when we pick, then bang, we bring in action. So we'll have a team of maybe 20 pickers out in the vineyard, just trying to, once we decide to pick, we need to kind of get it off the vine. We want to kind of safely get it to the winery so that the berries aren't damaged. We want it to stay cool. So on day one, we'll pick the fruit, get it transported here to the winery. Then we'll put it in a cold room overnight. And then the next day is when we'll process the fruit. And with that processing, for white wine, we would normally put all the grapes directly into the press and squeeze the juice off at that point. For the reds, it's a different process where we remove the stem. Then we have the option of either to crush the grape or not. That just requires a lot of work, a lot of people, different machines, and that's when things get really busy. And instead of using 800 gallons of water a day, we're using 3,000 or 4,000. So we're 400 to 500% kind of more active than we would be in the other times of the year.
Is that where you're seeing probably most of your wastewater getting generated?
For sure, for sure, yeah. And there's with our wastewater system, there's different adjustments we can make with how long to spend in some of the different tanks. And Cynthia and Jason and the team at HRP has been kind of great when we have questions on that and any kind of tweaking we should do there. Yeah.
And our Chief Operating Officer, Tad Gutchis, actually made a visit to Michael Shapp's Wineworks back in, I think it was February, and was lucky enough to return with a case of very fine selection of Michael Shapp's wines.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think we're all feel like we're doing something kind of unique and special here, and it's great to be able to make a product that people across the country can enjoy at the end of the day.
The harvest process, the actual picking of the grapes, it's largely a manual process just because of the delicate nature of the grapes. Is that correct?
It is. In Virginia, there are some mechanical harvesters that have gotten quite good, but there's oftentimes restrictive cost of kind of getting into that game. So those are typically $500,000 to $600,000 for a mechanical harvester. And just the nature of a lot of the vineyards that are grown in Virginia, we're not kind of set up. The mechanical harvester really likes a kind of a long, flat field, and very, very few Virginia operations are at that point.
The terrain that you're dealing with outside of Charlottesville, it's reasonably hilly, correct?
Yeah, it's reasonably hilly, and really the best sites for grapes in Virginia are these mountain sites that are oftentimes on steep hills. Sometimes they require special equipment like tractors with more like sort of a tank tread on them rather than a tire. Grapes can really do neat things on steep hillsides.
What would you say best distinguishes a Virginia wine versus a French or a California wine?
Yeah, so I'd say in Virginia, our wines have a lot more in common with European wines, where we're able to get ripe grapes with really nice flavors at a reasonable alcohol, so the alcohol is not too high. What's really putting Virginia on the map is there's some grapes. One in particular comes to mind. It's a white grape called Petit Manseng that does really well in our climate and just has a really unique kind of exotic taste with this really kind of interesting electrifying acid component to it. So I think we're finding grapes and wine styles that distinguish us, maybe perhaps inspired by Europe, but we're also blazing our own path at the same time.
And Michael Shaps has had several awards and accolades for the wines that you produce. Can you tell us about some of those?
So the most prestigious event in Virginia each year is called the Governor's Cup. Year in, year out, Michael has, I think, won the most gold medals each year in those because, he makes some really kind of showy, beautiful, rich red wines and crisp aromatic whites that do quite well.
Outside of wastewater, what about like your actual pulp generation, sludge generation, solids generation? Can you maybe speak to how that's handled?
When we pick the grapes from the field in the vineyard, so we pick the whole cluster. So the cluster has the stem on it, and each berry has skin and a bunch of seeds inside. So ultimately, if we're making a red or a white, we might be drawing some colors and textures from the seeds and the stems and the skin. But ultimately, they'll be separated from the ultimate wine. For 1 ton of grapes, 2,000 pounds, we can make about 150 gallons of wine. So that's about 1,200 pounds worth of wine. So we have 800 pounds of hummus to dispose of. And so what we do with that is pretty old school. We just drive it down to a field and pile it up, allow it to compost over the season. There are some really interesting experiments people are doing with taking that composted hummus and applying it under the vines in the spring to give some nutrition and some weed suppression. We're not currently doing that here at our operation, but so there's a lot of about two thirds of the each pound of grapes goes into wine. About a third kind of goes back to the field.
Very sustainable aspect of agriculture is actually being able to use the what would otherwise be a landfilled waste as a compost for further production the next year.
Another aspect of sustainability in the wine business is natural cork in each bottle of wine, or there's certainly alternatives to using natural cork. There's screw caps, there's synthetic corks, but we use mostly natural cork for our wines. And all those natural corks have sustained, one of the largest oak forests mostly in Portugal, but also in parts of Spain, where they take the bark from the oak cork tree and stamp out pieces of the bark for the cork. So there's just a really neat, centuries-long practice of doing this that's allowed these forests to continue to exist. So I think that's another kind of neat aspect of sustainability in the wine business.
Fantastic. So I guess for our listeners out there who are interested in getting some wine, what is currently out there from Michael Shaps that you would recommend, or what notes can you give to the budding wine connoisseurs out there that they should look for? So I'd say a really great place to start with
Michael Shaps wines would be either with Cabernet Franc. Cabernet Franc is a red grape variety originally from the Loire Valley in France, but also grown a lot in Bordeaux, that does really well in Virginia. And I think Michael's example is just a great example of why people fall in love with Virginia Cabernet Franc. Another wine of Michael's to try, I'd mentioned this grape earlier, is his Petit Manseng, which is a very kind of like exotic, lush, tropical style of white wine. And that's something you can find either by visiting our website. If you Google Michael Shaps Wines, you'll find our website. You can order through that. Or better yet, come on up to visit us and see what Michael Shaps is about, and also Virginia wine country. There's I know about 100 wineries within a 15-mile area here in the Central Virginia area. So there's a lot to see, and it's a really exciting time, and you'll find a lot of enthusiasm about what's happening here in Virginia.
Well, that's fantastic. Michael, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Great. Thanks, Tom. It's been great. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, nice to meet
Thank you, Michael. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, folks, we are trying our very first remote recording with multiple people in the South Carolina podcast Nook. So don't know what it's going to sound like. Think it might work. We'll see. Just heads up, might be a little interesting. All right, see you over there. All right, everybody, welcome to the Play Hard section. You've just joined us from a great conversation with Michael Henney of Michael Shaps Winery. And I am joined now by our president and COO, Tad Gutchess, and the regional manager of HRP's Southeastern offices, Sean Malin, familiar voice. You heard him on last month's podcast. And on last month's podcast, we also talked about Litchfield Distillery. So that will be what I'm cracking today. But guys, down there, what are you going to be sipping on for us?
Well, we have two wonderful wines from the Virginia Wine Works, or Maison Shaps in France. The first one is a Chardonnay 2019. It's I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Bourgogne, but it is from Maison Shaps in France, the one winery, a white wine. And then we have a 2016 Meritage Monticello red wine, and that is produced in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that is done by the Virginia Wine Works, Michael Shaps Winery.
Lovely. I was hoping to get a little bit of that, but on short notice, it was kind of hard to get it up in Connecticut. Yes, for those of you who haven't joined the video portion of us and are still listening, Tad and Sean are in the podcast Nook in South Carolina, and the word for it might be intimate, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely intimate.
We're going to keep this episode of Play Hard pretty short because it's going to get pretty hot over there as we go. But are we ready to decork and sample some of the fine wines? Yeah. We've heard so much about.
Tad sent me.
And actually, while Sean's decorking, I will give a little background on the Shaps Winery.
What do you want to do first, red or white?
Let's do the Chardonnay first, the one from France.
Okay.
So
folks, if you're not watching, you really need to watch because this could go horribly wrong in the best way.
Yeah. So, Virginia Wine Works, Michael Shaps Wine, they asked us to help them out with some wastewater as they expanded their operations from 4,000 cases of wine to 40,000 cases of wine per year. So we helped them out with that. And we were very fortunate to be able to garner some of their product and give it a shape. So Michael Shaps started producing in Charlotte about 1990 or so. He's been operating his own winery with Michael Henney, and they are extremely talented, great guys. And they were able to share their winemaking process with us, as well as their business operations.
Am I distracting you?
Not at all. No, not
you seem
at all.
Distracted.
Actually, you can smell that bouquet right now, right off the bat, couldn't you?
Bouquet. Little shout out to Upstate Alliance. These are their wine glasses. I don't remember if I won this in a drawing or if this was a Christmas present, but cheers.
Let's give this Chardonnay.
All right. First, you got to spin it. You ever been to California?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You got to waft it. You couldn't get two guys that know less about wine than us right here, Tom. I mean, it is. I hope people don't watch because they're going to be like, look at these clowns. But I'm going to take my glass. I'm going to swirl it. I'm going to aerate it. I'm going to give it a little sniff.
I'm drinking. Oh, yeah, that Chardonnay's nice.
Yeah.
Very,
nice.
Yeah, I'm not going to give the words that people would go, what are you talking about? But it's very smooth. It's very very mild. I could see myself sipping this in the back porch.
It's very nice. It's buttery.
It's
I like
buttery.
it buttery.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the word I was
oaky?
looking for. No, absolutely not.
Any oakiness
this is-
coming through?
Not on this one. This one is from France, and it's I went Chardonnay. I just wanted something to middle. I have several other bottles from Michael, but I think they make overall 35 different wines. Won several awards both in the States as well as in France. They produce their own wine. They grow their own grapes in 2 vineyards, but they also are a contract service because they are such talented winemakers. A lot of people will grow grapes and then give it to them to put it under their own label. So they have 2 bottling factories in Virginia. They have 2 vineyards, and they just brought a tasting room, event center, and vineyards. It's great for getaways, like business. The view and everything is really nice. So it's right outside of Charlottesville, about a stone throw from Montreal. So nice place.
Excellent. And again, as a professional, Tom, I poured us like darn near half glasses, which is not what you're supposed to do.
Of course, we don't have to drink it all, but
I mean, we could,
Well, we got to get to that red too.
Pour. It's a very tall pour. Yeah, it's delicious.
Ready for the red?
We're just going to jump right into it. No clever
Yeah, you guys
banter.
got to get on the red now, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Do we have more?
should add a
Oh no,
palate
hold on,
cleanser.
Sean, don't get up. See if you can get Matt, because I'm worried if you get up, the whole thing's gonna fall apart.
I don't have to get up. I can reach it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get fresh glasses.
Oh, we have the extra glasses.
Actually, that's the only thing
Oh,
we're
yeah.
prepared
so
to do, Tom.
prepared.
Oh, yes. The only thing we didn't bring was some wafers or you know,
Oyster crackers.
oyster.
I
Get a spit
remember.
bucket.
I remember. I remember a really boring family vacation in the 80s where my parents decided that we were going to drive up from Western Pennsylvania to Erie and do the wine country up there. And I remember eating the snot out of the crackers because they were sugary. Not oyster crackers. What are the crackers that you get at the vineyards?
Were they water crackers or they?
Maybe. And I feel woefully
Goldfish?
incompetent for this segment.
I think you were eating goldfish.
They weren't goldfish. They were like oyster crackers, but they were sweet.
Malva toast?
I don't know.
Was it Malva?
I think we should comment on the rabbit wine corker professional thing I got cooking here. Nobody's commented on
No,
that.
that is actually pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of sitting here doing the wine. Thank you, Tad. Boom.
He's doing a great job here. I've
Professional.
been known to obliterate corks.
Professional.
So this, once again, is a 2016 Meritage. I looked this up online and did a research. This is actually a $50 bottle of wine.
Ooh,
So we should chug it.
We're doing it right this afternoon.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna
Go
go
for a nice little slice of medium lamb,
I'm gonna try to do a more
mint jelly.
appropriate pour here. So there you go. Give that
there
a
you
twirl.
Ooh, that's
Experience the oak.
oh wow.
Yeah, that's it. You
That's
gotta look
nice
at the
and-
color.
Ooh, that smells real good.
I like it.
I know, doesn't it smell beautiful? Fantastic, doesn't it?
It's funny. So have you always been a wine guy? Like I know that we started slamming like Busch Light or whatever at whatever age we were, but like
No,
how quickly did you get into
Not
to
until
wine?
my adult life when I could appreciate it with food.
Yeah.
And that's what fascinates me about wine is like, you know, you get it and you're trying to catch on, but different food is enhanced. When
You think
have
so?
the right wine.
That's also smooth.
It's, yeah.
These are two
it's-
very good bottles. Congratulations.
This
on
is a
this
very
place.
good bottle. It's not harsh. You know, like sometimes it's a deep red can really be aggressive.
I like the aggressive, the dry,
See, I don't.
the dry reds.
I
I used to hate it, right?
yeah.
God, I feel like I'm missing out. I want to be down there with those wines.
On this one, Tom, you are, because I'm thinking about some little braised potatoes, little filet mignon, some green bean almondine.
A little fillet mignon.
Yeah, a little fillet mignon.
You're such a boomer, Sean.
I know it, right?
Well, I know
love
you're
it.
a dad. That is such a dad thing to say. You want a little fillet mignon
Yeah.
with your appetizers?
With your hors d'oeuvres.
Get the Meritage. Michael Schaaf's Winery, Charlottesville, Virginia.
So do they know that we're doing essentially a live taste test today?
I don't know, Tom. Does
Are they concerned?
Michael know we're doing this? Mason Shots?
No. I had asked him about getting bottles up in Connecticut because Connecticut's one of those backwards puritanical states that has weird laws about shipping alcohol to it. Yeah.
How do you really feel, Tom?
I know. So it's one of the few places in the contiguous United States that I can't get the wine sent to me. So I'm missing out on this one. But what was the question?
I don't know what the question was, Tom, but next time you come visit us,
Yeah.
I do have a pretty good stockpile. I will bring some more out for you, specifically.
All right.
Nice charcuterie tray.
Oh,
Would
God,
you
I
like
love
tray?
charcuterie. If I had to
That's
pick
what I
like
love.
one kind of thing that I had to eat for the rest of my life, that's the only meal I could have, it would be charcuterie.
Oh,
It'd be sliced meats and cheese and crackers. That's
Yeah,
the pick.
well, the charcuterie
If
is
you're
so
on
much
it-
more than that, Sean. You're selling the charcuterie short.
yeah,
there's-
olives.
Tell me about it.
Yep, olives, grapes, and
Cranberries.
berries, and honey, and like it's such a
Little roasted
wide
red
array.
peppers.
It's kind of rabbit food, if you think.
Rabbit
about it.
food,
No.
sausage.
Meat and cheese.
He's talking about olives and berries.
Olives, rabbit
not-
food.
It's it's got the Mediterranean Italian twist to it. Oh yeah, that's
like
one
having
of the things
Titus
I
on
did
the
on
podcast.
vacation in Europe. I came back for the charcuterie cheese board. Do you want the cheese board? Do you want the charcuterie, or would you like a combo?
You feel like you have to stress the SH on the front of that, even though it starts with the CH?
Oh, charcuterie.
Yeah, okay. Pick it up on that.
Which, by the way, interesting fact. So we're in Paris. We're at the Palace of Versailles.
Who's we?
And we family, my family and I, and we're on a tour, and she goes through and she made some kind of a statement, and I went back to her and I answered in French, and I did. I said, "Oh, merci beaucoup," something like that, and she comes and she rips off this French, and I said, no. She goes, "Wow." She goes, "You spoke very well with a perfect accent. Do you know French?" And I said, un peu, and just like that, and then that was it. So, so when Sue came back, I said, "Yeah." She said my accent was on point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
She didn't.
I know how to go to the bathroom, and I know how to eat in French.
So there's no way that she saw that you were an American and that she was just going to butter you up for a better tip or anything like that?
No, not at all. Although the one,
No
the one
chance.
fun
Zero
thing I
chance of
had
that.
when I do go over there, everybody does look at me and they're going, "He's Eastern European, he's German," just by my looks. So we were walking in Paris, and there was American tourists coming, and everybody's all gun shy because they hear that the Parisians are all mean and in your face. So this lady was walking with her head down, and all of a sudden she looks up and was going to run into me. She sees me, and then she stops short and she panics. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. Mercy, like hacking up the language. And I'm just laughing because I'm like this big German guy looking at her. And so I had fun with that.
So she was American?
She was American, yeah. By the way, I didn't sign you up for any petitions this year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually when I go on vacation in other countries, if there's a petition, I sign Sean's name.
Yeah. He does that a lot, actually.
Ted, what are
if
the
anybody
origins
needs
of your
confidential.
name? What's the etymology of your name?
Actually, I'm it's Swiss German,
Uh-huh.
from the Swiss German border. So, in in my family heritage is father's the Swiss German side, and my mom is Ukrainian. Yeah.
Have I ever told you that I was really confused by your name for a while when I first started working at HRP?
No, you did not.
So I did not know how to pronounce your last name for a while. I thought it was Godicus. I thought you were like Greek or something. And then for whatever reason, I assumed that Tad was short for Thaddeus. So I thought your name was Thaddeus Godicus for a long time.
Ooh.
That's
I should
cosmic.
go with that, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's like constellation worthy, right?
Exactly. A planet or something. That's nice.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's Greek when they ask you the orange. You know, when you go through the TSA, oh, let me pronounce your name. What's your heritage? Just check my passport. Let me go get Chick-fil-A. Let me know.
Yeah.
But no, they usually try to guess your heritage.
I do love traveling with Tad, hearing the different ways people can butcher his last name. There's some good ones.
Yep.
There's some good ones.
Yeah, it's always nice when they come over to you and they go, Mr. Are you still going to Kansas City? It's gate A7. So I know they're talking. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. So I do enjoy it. So it's not, it's very pleasurable working at a winery.
Yeah.
In fact, there was a lot of chemical engineering done there. Got a lot of vats, got a lot of pipes. The heat, the fermentation, the wastewater treatment. It was pretty cool what Michael Shaps and Michael Henny had done. They just artisans, in effect. And I got to tour not only their whole winery, but I got to go into their barrel room and got some nice photos of that. And got to learn a little bit more about the winery. People think that there's an off season. They're not. They assured me that they might have seasonal workers, but they're working all year round. The winter months, they're clipping the vines, trimming them down, touching them every day. When they finish, they go back around, do them all again. So it was pretty neat to seeing all that. And they actually bring in interns. So if you are studying wine in different countries, they bring in 2 or 3 interns a year. So that was kind of neat to see that.
They have like stomper interns, people with large feet.
Yeah, they get a lot of people with big
feet.
Big feet.
Yeah,
big feet come in and stomp the grapes.
Old school.
Yeah,
Tastes better.
But it's nice when you see their like tasting rooms because they have the traditional bar where you sit up and belly up, but then they have like the formal butcher's block table, and then meetings that are set up aside, and then there's fireside and stuff like this. So you really have an enjoyable times. So tour buses come rolling in, and people set up on all this stuff. It's pretty cool.
So what did they ask us to do?
What did they ask us to do? So
you can talk about the project.
It was wastewater. Since they had such a influx of additional wastewater due to the production, they had to increase their size, and with that was the holding times, the pH treatment, but also the I hope I get this right for Cynthia. I believe it was the anaerobic as opposed to aerobic bacteria interaction and holding times to go ahead and treat this water, because they had to be treated for a certain amount because the temperature needed to be watched before it goes over and under in neutralization tanks, put out to a leaching field and a spray field. And it really needed to be a fine balance, because if you didn't have it all matched and the water levels weren't the right height, it wouldn't treat it. It would burn out the equipment, or could burn out the equipment, and then you'd have breaches and things like that.
So essentially, we were participating in the quality, right? I mean, was this a fine tuning of their process, or were they having problems?
No, yeah, expansion and fine tuning of their wastewater process. Yeah, and it's the washout of the tanks, from washout of the barrel operation, different things like that they would do general washing on. But it's such a clean facility. all the tanks, all the pumps, everything's stainless steel. It's kind of neat. You're on the mountains of Virginia. You go into this building, and then everything is so clean and spotless and stainless steel. And then you see, different grapes, different times, and then he gets into the science of it. And these fellows are real good at it, real accommodating. I've been to them in, I think August is when they make a lot of wine, and they are just watching the weather on their phones, checking temperature about when you pick, how much sun, what do you pick first, what do you pick second. And it's almost like they're worry warts looking at this, but it makes a big difference because they're going to lose crops. And I always went there a couple times, and I'm like, I do not want to get in the way of a site visit for what you're doing. I don't want to be the guy that ruins the crop. And it's like, I don't know. But no, extremely busy, and they kind of a mini lab in there. Michael Henney's got all the chemical qualifications, and he was able to get some really great real-time data to work with Cynthia Ollie and Jason Davis with relaying a lot of that information so we could help with the upgrades. And some of this was done during COVID times, so getting on site and things like this was stuff to do. So, but hey, can you run some analytical? And he could do it, chart it over time, and send it to us, and we'll still check in how things are going, and he'll do some printouts of things and show their holding times and things. So it's really cool, a really cool operation. And, it's great seeing widgets made, carpet, paperboard boxes and all that too. But when you start seeing, this was my first, I guess, beverage. I've never been to a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi bottle factoring or things like that. I have as far as other things, but not to see the process. But this was the first or second winery I'd been to where you could get that close and see things.
All right. So, guys, I think we're going to wrap it there. It's been a great conversation, but I know we're all eager to get going here. So, white or red? What's your picks?
I'm typically, you pitted me down before. I'm going to say white. I'm going red today.
Man,
they're so good, but both so good though. And we do have an office full of people waiting to finish off the bottles.
That's a really tough question, Tom, because I am a red guy, but for whatever reason, this Chardonnay is hitting me just right today. So
doesn't make you a bad guy.
On this very rare occasion, I'm gonna go with a Chardonnay today.
Nice.
And I finished the red.
We swapped.
I came back to the white.
We swapped today.
Oh, jeez. Here we go. Forever cemented in matrimony.
All right. Well, for all you watching out there and still listening, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this. If you're listening, make sure to rate us 5 stars on whatever platform you're on. And if you're watching, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up. And we are so glad to have had this chance to talk to you. Sean, Tad, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
Always a pleasure.
All right. And we'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everybody.